Hello everybody, how's it going? It's me, Crendor, and welcome back to Crendor Talks in front of a shitty green screen. Today, I want to talk about Warhammer 40k and how I played my first match. It was like literally a 500-point match with like no stratagems or like really anything. It was mainly just learn how to play 40k, right? So, if anybody doesn't know, I've played Age of Sigmar. I've probably played well over 30, 40 games Age of Sigmar, right? And, you know, I'm well versed in Age of Sigmar. I know what I'm doing. I know all the rules for the most part. And, you know, I've played a lot of the armies. But I've never really played 40k because it's never really interested me. And I know I get a lot of people being like, Crendor, you ever play 40k? Play 40k? You ever play 40k? So, I did get Necrons 2 years ago when the Indomitus box came out. Well, almost 2 years. I think, right? Yeah. And I built all the Necrons. I was like, they look cool. And I was like, all right, maybe one day I'll play, right? So 2 years go by. And, you know, I have some friends and some of them were like, hey, you know what? They mainly play Age of Sigmar and they're like, I think I kind of want to try 40k too. And so, some of my friends, you know, they're very well versed in 40k. Some play a lot of 40k. They play, you know, Sigmar and 40k. And some of them are just strictly Sigmar. And so we were like, all right, you know, we'll do learn how to play 40k game. And it was interesting how similar yet how different the two games are. So I'm sure a lot of you play both. I'm sure a lot of you just play one or the other. But I kind of just wanted to talk about my feelings of my first 40k game and just going through all of it. So, initially, I felt extremely overwhelmed. Because it's like, all right, you got to make a list. And I have my Necron book, right? So looking through the codex, and it's just like so many things that I don't understand. It's just like, you can use a detachment on the thing, and then your melee and your ballistic skill, and I'm just like, I'm used to just, like, move, wounds, hit, wound, rend, damage. Like, you know, and then just abilities, whatever, right? That's what I'm used to. So, you know, having, like, strength and toughness on top of hit and then ballistic and weapon skill. Like, there's just so many things. I was just like, what? So after a bit, I started, you know, figuring it out and picking it up. Being like, okay, you know, once you get used to it, you're like, I get it now. And then I realized how many command points you get. We weren't actually using any of the, like, commands and stuff, but I do think it's cool how many stratagems, I guess is what you call them, you're able to use, because it gives you a lot of customization, which I think in Sigmar, they tend to limit that. Or a lot of your command abilities, essentially, are tied into your war scroll or your unit, right? It's not like an army-wide thing, which I think a lot of them are. Correct me if I'm wrong. And so it seems like a lot of learning your army in 40k is like learning all the little things that you can do and all the customizations. It feels like there's a lot of customizations in 40k compared to Sigmar, where it's like, these are the things you take and you play with them, right? And I think that's good and bad. I think the good is that it allows you to get more creative. It allows you to, you know, kind of tailor your army to how you want to play it, right? But I think the negative is that I start to see where a lot of people are like, it's a very list-heavy game, right? Where somebody brings one list, someone brings the other, and you're like, oh, my list is going to lose, right? Because if you're playing against somebody that has a bunch of really high toughness units and you have a bunch of really low strength units and you can't kill any of those. Like if they have vehicles and you have no anti-vehicles, it's just like, well, I guess I'm probably going to lose this one. Right? It feels very much like that. While I think in Sigmar, you can kind of just play an army against another army and pretty much be like, you know, I might be at a disadvantage, but I feel like I could probably still win, right? So I do think it can go both ways, right? I can see how one versus the other, or one versus the other is kind of simplistic, yet maybe even more competitive because of that simplisticness. Does that make sense? Because a good player can then take a lot of those armies that aren't very customizable and stuff and still win with them through strategy and movement and making good choices. While in the other one, it seems very list heavy. Now, that's not to say like you get two really good lists going up against each other. They're like evenly matched, and then they do well, right? By the way, this is just like my initial impression. I'm not going into the depths of 40k. Like I literally know nothing. This is what I'm speculating based on how I've played and what I know of Sigmar and all that stuff, right? So, and what I've heard and all that. So, I was like, all right. So I had what did I have? I had, God, what's his name? He's the guy who's like the Necron guy, and there's like the Space Marine, and he's like, bzz, and he's like zapping him. Illuminator Saurus or something like that. I had him. I had some Scorp Tech Slicer men. And I had some Necron Warriors and an Overlord. So that was pretty much my thing. One thing that kind of threw me off was the fact that the damage doesn't carry over when you shoot. So like in Sigmar, if I have a Bastiladon, and I shoot, and I hit, and I wound, and I do 5 damage to a unit of whatever, right, skinks, then it only hits one of them in 40k. Well, in Sigmar, it would hit 5 of them. Well, it would do 5 damage to that unit. So the unit has, like, say, 20 wounds. You take 5. That means 5 skinks die. Well, in 40k, it's like, oh, it only hit 1. Even if you did 1 billion damage, it still only hit 1 of them. So they have 1 die. So, like, getting used to that was kind of like, oh. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because if you shoot one guy, doesn't matter if you do 1 billion damage or 1, and he's got 1 HP, he's dead, right? So I get it, but I think mortal wounds are the things that can bounce to others in the unit. So mortal wounds, much like in Age of Sigmar, mortal wounds are very strong. Seems like mortal wounds are the thing all around where you're like, get mortal wounds. Aside from that, I really like the fact that it seems very terrain heavy. It seems terrain matters more because there's a lot of shooting, and it's very easy to get picked off and stuff. So having like cover seems very important compared to Sigmar, where you can kind of just, chill. Some armies, there's shooting where you can get roasted, but usually you can plan around it. So I feel like there's a lot more melee in Age of Sigmar, which makes sense because it's more medieval, while 40k is obviously 4,000 years space, shoot, zap, zap. So yeah, being in cover seemed to matter a lot. I reanimated like literally 0 Necrons because I rolled terribly. I did enjoy the 40k. Like I charged at, I don't even know, it was Knights of something I was playing against, or Admech. I think it was Admech. And I charged, I busted through a wall. I tied them up, and they can't shoot when you're in combat, I learned. So in Sigmar, you can shoot in combat, but I guess you can only shoot like pistols or something in 40k, and then killed them, and then consolidated 3 more inches to get on the point. So a lot of it seems like you can charge, pile in, consolidate, and you can get some big movement off, I realized. And then, just the Overlord has his like super shot. It's like 120-inch range or something, so you just pick something off. I was like, that's neat. And I ended up winning the game. I mean, the fact that we weren't using like stratagems and other stuff made it so we both kind of struggled with things, but I think I actually had an advantage. Either way, it was mainly about learning the game, and I think I know the basics of 40k now. And I enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I think I would still prefer Age of Sigmar, because I just find the medieval setting more fun, and I like the armies more in Age of Sigmar and Warhammer Fantasy style stuff, but I appreciate Warhammer 40k for what it is now, and I can kind of understand when people talk about it. I'll probably build more Necrons, honestly, and try to just play more Necron stuff, and there's a possibility that I might play Orc things, because I really like a lot of the Warhammer 40k Orc stuff after looking at it. That, and they sent me a kill rig, so I'm like, I might as well build it, right? And they have like squigs and stuff, so I mean, if I'm gonna play anything, it's either gonna be Necrons or Orcs. All the other stuff is just, I'm not into Space Marines. I don't really like humans. Not a big fan of humans, in game and out. And yeah, so that's my my experience. Let me know down below. Have you ever played 40k? Have you you know, tried playing one and then playing the other, and you're like, what's going on, right? Maybe you had the opposite experience where you started with 40k and then you tried Sigmar and you're just like, what? So let me know down in the comments section below, and any other comments you might have, you know, tips on Necrons or Orcs or whatever it might be. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Okay? Okay. See ya.